moving in slow motion. We're just floating so
All right,
out of
today we're going to talk about a simple four-letter word that is, no joke, one of the most important things you can know for staying safe on the road. It's a little technique that can completely change how you handle some of the most common moves you make behind the wheel.
So let me ask you something. What's the biggest risk you take when you change lanes? I mean, you do it all the time, right? Merging onto the freeway, getting into the turn lane. It feels like second nature, but there's a hidden danger in that everyday move that catches even the best drivers by surprise.
Yep, it's your blind spot. That annoying, invisible zone on the side of your car that your mirrors just don't cover. And trust me, it's big enough to hide an entire car, and definitely a motorcycle. If you're only using your mirrors, you're basically driving with a huge gap in your knowledge of what's around you. And that's where things get risky.
But what if you could just get rid of that risk? What if there was a foolproof way to get a crystal clear picture before you make a move? Well, there is, and it's all about clearing the smog.
SMOG is this awesome four-step safety check. It's a simple, repeatable process that you use before you do anything like changing lanes, merging, or even making a tight turn. It stands for signal, mirror, over the shoulder, and go. Think of it like your personal pre-flight checklist for a safe maneuver.
So, let's dive in and break down what each of these letters actually means, and more importantly, how they all work together to keep you safe out there.
Here it is, the whole process at a glance. You signal, you check your mirrors, you look over your shoulder, and then you go. It seems like a lot, but these four simple actions create a powerful bubble of awareness around your car. And it all kicks off with that first step.
First things first, S is for signal. This is your way of talking to every other driver on the road. And it's not just a suggestion, it's crucial. Flipping that turn signal on nice and early tells everyone what your plan is, and it gives them plenty of time to react. This one little thing makes the whole driving environment so much more predictable and, way safer.
Okay, next up, M is for mirrors. And this isn't just one glance. It's kind of like a three-part scan. First, check your rearview mirror. Then, look at the side view mirror for the direction you're heading. This gives you the big picture. What's behind you, what's happening in the lane next to you. It's all about sizing up the flow of traffic and spotting any potential issues coming up from behind.
And now we get to the most important step. Seriously, this is the one people forget all the time. O is for over the shoulder. After you've checked your mirrors, you have to do a quick physical head turn to look over your shoulder into the lane you want to move into. Why? Because it's the only way to see what's lurking in that blind spot. It's just a quick glance, but it's the move that confirms if that space is really empty.
And finally, G is for go. But, and this is a big but, this doesn't mean just step on the gas. It means you go only when you are 100% sure it's clear and safe. So after you've signaled, you've checked your mirrors, you've looked over your shoulder, now you make the final call. If the coast is clear, you move smoothly and confidently. And if it's not, no big deal. You just wait and you run through the smog check again in a few seconds.
See, the whole point is to do these 4 steps in order every single time you move. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder, go. What feels like a clunky checklist at first will, I promise, become this single, smooth, life-saving reflex with a little practice.
But look, just knowing the steps isn't really the end game here. The real goal is to turn this knowledge into pure muscle memory. It's not enough to just know the rule. You have to practice it until it's just an automatic part of how you drive.
So why does this matter so much? Well, the payoff is huge. Using SMOG dramatically cuts down your risk of those awful sideswipe collisions. It makes you a more confident driver because you're operating with all the information. And it doesn't just protect you, it protects your passengers and, frankly, everyone else on the road. This is what defensive driving is all about, seeing trouble before it starts and actively avoiding it.
When you really commit to a habit like SMOG, you're doing more than just looking out for yourself. You're actually contributing to a bigger culture of safety on our roads. You become part of this collective effort, this drive to get rid of preventable accidents, and just make driving safer for everybody.
So, the next time you get behind the wheel, just think about this. Before you even think about changing lanes or merging, ask yourself, am I clearing the smog? This isn't just some trivia you memorize for the driving test. It's a real tool you can use for a lifetime of safer driving. So could this one little habit change the way you drive forever? I think you already know the answer to that.
Hey, welcome back. So last time we broke down what the smog rule is, you know the letters, you've got the basics down. But, theory is one thing, and the actual road is a completely different story. So today we're going to take all that knowledge and put it into practice. Okay, let's dive in. Because this is really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? It's one thing to memorize an acronym, but the real skill, the thing that keeps you safe, is knowing exactly when and where to use it. And that's precisely what we're going to get into today.
All right, first things first, let's do a super quick recap just to make sure we're all starting on the same page.
Remember these 4 moves. Signal, you're telling everyone what you're about to do. Mirror, you're checking what's happening behind and beside you. Over the shoulder, that absolutely critical head check for your blind spot. And finally, go. You make your move, but only when it's safe. Think of this as our foundation for everything else we're about to cover. Okay, let's jump into our first scenario, and it's probably one of the most common things you'll do in a car, changing lanes. So let's talk about the biggest danger here. When you go to change lanes, you're trying to move into a space you can't totally see with your mirrors. That hidden area, your blind spot, is like a little black hole where a whole car can just disappear. Honestly, this is the #1 reason the SMOG rule was even invented, to make that invisible car visible. And here's how you do it in the real world. First, you hit that signal to give everyone else a heads up. Then you're checking your mirrors, getting the big picture. But now, the most important part, step 3, that quick glance over your shoulder. That's what busts the blind spot. And only after you see that the coast is clear do you smoothly go. Okay, let's shift gears to our next situation, something you do all the time without even thinking about it, making a turn. Now, the tricky part about turns is that it's not just about other cars anymore. Suddenly, you've got to worry about pedestrians stepping off a curb or cyclists who might be zipping up right beside you. The potential hazards are coming from all over the place, so you really have to have your head on a swivel. So using SMO here is absolutely essential. Signal way ahead of time, check your mirrors for cars, yes, but also keep an eye out for cyclists. Then that over-the-shoulder glance, it's not just for cars anymore. You're looking for people in the crosswalk. Once you know the path is totally clear of everything, then you go. All right, on to our third scenario. And for a lot of people, this is the most stressful one, merging onto a busy road or a highway. Let's be real, merging is intense. You've got a limited amount of asphalt, that on-ramp, and in that short distance, you have to get your car up to the same speed as traffic that's already flying by. It's a high-pressure balancing act of finding your spot and hitting the right speed. And here is how smog becomes your best friend. You put on your signal. Your eyes are constantly scanning your mirrors, judging the speed of cars and looking for that perfect gap. You do that one last critical over-the-shoulder check to make sure nobody snuck in. And here's the key difference with merging. The go step means you accelerate. You smoothly get up to speed with the flow of traffic as you slide into that gap you picked out. Okay, we've covered the when and the where. Now we need to talk about the most important part, how to make this whole thing second nature. So here's the bottom line. You don't want to be sitting in your car thinking, okay, SMOG every single time. The real goal is to practice this so much that it becomes an automatic habit, something you just do without thinking. That's when you know you've really mastered it. So how do you get to that point? Well, you can try a few things. Say the steps out loud while you're driving. I know, it sounds a little silly, but it really helps burn it into your brain. Go practice on quiet neighborhood streets where the stakes are low. Ask a parent or a friend who's a good driver to ride with you and give you feedback. You can even make a little game out of it. See how many times you can do a perfect smog on your way to the grocery store. And I think this quote really says it all. You can't have someone sitting in the passenger seat for you on every drive, checking your blind spot. But when you build a powerful habit like smog, it's like you've got the perfect co-pilot with you at all times. So I'll just leave you with this question. Think about your week, your commute to work, that trip to see a friend, merging onto the highway this weekend. What's the one drive you'll take where making smog an instinct will really count? Because at the end of the day, safe driving is all about habits. And smog is one of the absolute best habits you can build. Thanks for tuning in.